1888, London, the vanishing neighborhood and the shadow man. In the cold, foggy autumn of 1888, in the poorest, darkest corner of London, Whitechapel, the air was heavy with silence. The gas lamps flickered with a dim orange glow, barely cutting through the thick mist that blanketed the narrow streets. Back then, Whitechapel wasn't just home to the poor, it was home to secrets, to whispers, and to fear. And on one such night, the first disappearance occurred. A young woman named Mary stepped out of her home and was never seen again. What I'm about to tell you never made it into the official records. Maybe because no one really wanted to believe it. But in the back streets of London, among the old brick buildings and forgotten alleys, the story has survived. Whispers still echo in the fog. Now I ask you, would you have walked those streets that night, knowing something was watching from the shadows? Mary was just 22 years old. That night she had a brief conversation with her neighbor and stepped out into the mist. The hours passed, and no one saw her again. At first, no one panicked. Disappearances in Whitechapel weren't exactly rare, but there was something different about this one. Witnesses claimed to have seen a dark figure following her, not quite human, not quite anything else. A presence that didn't seem to walk, but glide, silent, observing. When the police eventually arrived, they didn't find much. No blood, no signs of struggle. But they did find something strange. Strange markings scratched into the pavement near Mary's home. Symbols, like runes, ancient and twisted. One neighbor later told the constables that Mary's door had opened and slammed shut on its own. Several times. As if something was trying to get inside, she whispered. Now, what do you think those symbols meant? Could a door really open itself, or was something else trying to enter? In the days that followed, fear began to spread through the neighborhood. People spoke in hushed tones. Some said the disappearances were the work of a cult, others of something worse. The most chilling rumor? The Shadow Man. No one knew his real name. No one had ever seen his face, but nearly everyone had heard of him. He was said to appear in the fog, dressed in black, tall and thin, with eyes that glowed faintly like dying embers. They said if you made eye contact with him, you wouldn't survive the week. A few brave, or foolish, locals tried to laugh it off. Ghost stories for poor folks, they'd say. But even they locked their doors a little earlier, and even they avoided walking home alone. Now I ask you again, if you saw a shadow watching you from across the street, in the mist, would you keep walking? Or would you run? 2 weeks later, another disappearance. This time, Elizabeth. Elizabeth was a seamstress. She was last seen near an alley called Maiden's Passage. It was a narrow corridor between two brick buildings, known for being eerily quiet, even during the day. That night she vanished. No screams, no witnesses. But the next morning something even more disturbing was found, a stretch of earth that looked freshly dug, in the middle of the cobblestone, as if the ground itself had been opened. Again those symbols appeared, more elaborate this time. And near the spot, a single shoe. The police began to suspect foul play, but couldn't make sense of the evidence. The symbols didn't match any known language. No one in the area had seen anything. Or maybe no one dared speak. But the stories kept coming. People claimed they heard footsteps behind them in the fog, soft, slow, deliberate. One man swore he heard whispering in a language he'd never heard before, a language that made him feel sick just remembering it. Would you have walked through Whitechapel that night if you knew you might hear voices that didn't belong to the living? Then came Thomas. Thomas was a skeptic, bold, defiant. He believed none of it. One night, armed with only a lantern and his pride, he walked the length of Whitechapel's most haunted streets. The fog was especially thick that evening. His lantern barely lit the path ahead. And yet, he walked. Minutes passed. Then, the footsteps behind him, matching his pace. He turned. Nothing. He kept walking. Then, a breath on the back of his neck. He turned again. Still nothing. But the fog began to shift, not with the wind, but with movement. Slow, purposeful movement. Then he saw it, a tall, dark figure standing in the mist, still, watching. Thomas raised his lantern. The figure didn't move. He took a step forward, then another. "Who's there?" he called out. Silence. Then, in a voice so low it barely reached his ears, "Why are you here?" Thomas dropped the lantern, and that's when everything went dark. He was never seen again. Some say he ran away, too scared to face what he saw. Others believe the shadow man claimed him, like he did the others. Fear grew as more people vanished in Whitechapel. Police found no clues. Old Mr. Hawkins spoke of the shadow man, a creature of fog and fear. Sarah searched for her missing brother. At his last known spot, she felt a cold breath and saw a shadow. When she called out, it warned her to leave. She ran and never returned. After that, disappearances stopped. The fog cleared, but the shadow man may still be waiting. Would you walk those streets tonight? Please follow for more.